And I'm choosing one that's called My Name is Cool. So it's the title one. There are no pictures. I am not going to share any pictures because this book doesn't have any pictures. But I'm really excited to read it. And I am, unlike Antonio, the author, I did not grow up speaking 2 languages. I grew up in a house speaking 1 language, but I did learn Spanish as a grown-up. And so as a grown-up, I've learned Spanish, and I'm going to try my best to pronounce all of the Spanish words in this story correctly. And I know there's some of you that are growing up speaking Spanish. You could probably tell me where I make mistakes, but I'm going to do my best. So I'm going to say thank you to my friend Antonio Sacre for writing this story called My Name is Cool. And I'm going to say thank you to the publisher. Their name is Familius, and they are a company that publishes books. Their motto is helping families be happy, because stories make us happy, right? All right, I'm going to start. You guys ready? My name is Cool. When I was 5 years old, the night before my first day of school, I was excited and nervous. I was excited because my parents told me school would be so much fun. I was nervous because, well, it may seem kind of silly, but it's true. I had so many names, I had no idea what my real name was. I thought about how I got all my names. When I was born, my mom called me Senor Magoo, or Mr. Magoo, from a cartoon character she used to love as a girl, because my eyes were so big, just like his. So I thought my name was Senor Magoo. When my uncle came to the hospital, he shortened it and he just called me El Goo. So for a short time, my name was Senor Magoo El Goo. My papa and mama couldn't put Senor Magoo El Goo on my birth certificate, so they called me Antonio Bernardo Sacre. Antonio because my dad's name is Antonio. Bernardo because it's the name of my mom and dad's best friend at the time. And Sacre because that is my dad's last name. And if we lived in Cuba, I'd get my mom's last name too. Babies in Cuba get both their dad's last name and their mom's last name. I was born in the United States, and even though I didn't have 2 last names like my dad, I liked all the rest of my names very much. So then my name became Senor Antonio Bernardo Magoo Sacre El Goo. By the time they got me home from the hospital, my grandmother was waiting for us. She grabbed me in her arms and called me Papito, a name many Cuban grandmothers call their nietos or grandsons. So my name became Senor Antonio Bernardo Magoo Sacre Papito El Goo. My older cousin hugged and squeezed me when she saw me for the first time. She really liked hugging and squeezing me. I didn't like hugging so much, but I really liked my older cousin. I have no idea what her name is either, because she has more names than I do. She called me Coquito, or Little Coconut Head, because even though my eyes were so big, my head was so tiny. My name kept growing. Senor Antonio Bernardo Magoo Sacre Papito Coquito El Goo. By the time I could walk, I walked very fast, really fast. So fast my parents and grandmother and big cousin and uncle could barely keep up with me. I could get to the glass elephants on the small table and the basket of marbles way over on the other counter at almost the same time. And sometimes they could catch me before I pulled them all to the ground, but not every time. Because I walked so fast, I bumped into lots and lots of things. I always had tiny cuts and bruises on my head and arms. When my next door neighbor Miguel saw me, he called me Putinquito, or old rundown jalopy. Since I pretty much always had tiny cuts and bruises on my head and arms, he pretty much always called me that. Aquí viene el Putinquito, Here comes the old jalopy. So my mom called me Senor Magoo. My uncle called me El Goo. My birth certificate said Antonio Bernardo Sacre. My grandmother called me Papito. My cousin called me Coquito. And Miguel, my neighbor, called me Funtinquito. Funtinquito. So I guess my name was Senor Antonio Bernardo Magoo Sacre Papito Funtinquito Coquito El Goo. The summer before my first year of kindergarten, I didn't want to go to school. Mi papa made up a great game to help me want to go. We made a boat out of cushions and pillows, a sail made from one of Mama's old dresses, and hats out of newspapers. With these makeshift goods, we went on a sailing adventure. He was el comandante, the commander, and I was el capitán, the captain. We sailed all around the world in our house and ended up in a small island in my dad's office that was full of books. I tried to read them, but I couldn't understand the words. My dad did. He's smart. I asked how he got so smart. He said that after a few years of school, I would be able to read them too. I told him that after our sailing trip, I couldn't wait to go to school. On our way back from our imaginary trip, I saw a mosquito land on my dad's back. I smacked it hard. My dad whooped. I showed him the squashed bug on my hand, and he laughed and called me El Capitán de los Mosquitos. So my name became Senor Antonio Bernardo Magoo Sacre Papito Futinguito Coquito El Capitán de los Mosquitos El Goo. The night before kindergarten, I wasn't sure which name I would use at school. I decided to just go to sleep and work it all out in the morning. My abuela always said, mañana sabiduría. The morning is wiser than the evening. Finally, I woke up on the first day of school. I felt better. I left my Capitan's hat in my room and I went to my cousin's room. Goodbye, Coquito, she said. I hugged my mom. Adios, Senor Magoo. I kissed my grandmother. Hasta luego, Papito. I shook hands with my uncle. Tutu algo. I walked out the front door. Miguel waved. Cuidado, Futinquito. I walked down the street with my dad. I got to the school and he said, Adelante, Capitán de los Mosquitos. Keep going, Captain of the Mosquitoes. I entered the big door and walked in the hallway. I was scared. A huge man walked up to me and said, What's the matter? I looked up at him. I was so scared, I didn't just cry or scream. I howled. He smiled, took my hand, and gently led me to the classroom. I felt better. I walked into my classroom. It was so pretty. There were pictures everywhere with little desks and chairs and kids dressed in their best clothes. A happy teacher smiled at me and pointed toward an open seat. I sat down. I'm Mrs. Green, La Señora Verde, I thought, giving her her own Cuban nickname. She called off the other names from a book she held at her desk. Mary Smith, a little girl said, Here. Daryl Washington, here. John Wilson, here. She kept calling names and children kept saying here. Then she said, There's one name that no one answered to, Antonio Sacre? I looked around the classroom. Antonio Sacre? She asked again. What was she talking about? She looked at me. Honey, are you Antonio Sacre? I said, I don't really think that is my name. The kids laughed. Sure you do, honey. You're a big boy now. Aren't you Antonio Sacre? Well, you must be because everyone else has been called off the list by now. Actually, I think my name is Senor Antonio Bernardo Magoo Sacre Papito Futinguito Coquito El Capitán de los Mosquitos El Goo. The class started to giggle. Don't be silly, dear. What is your name? I'm pretty sure my name is Señor Antonio Bernardo Magu Sacre Papito Futinguito Coquito El Capitán de los Mosquitos El Gu. The class started to laugh louder. Please don't cause a fuss on the first day. Your name is Antonio Sacre. Actually, I think my name is more than that. And before I could explain to the class how Cubans have so many nicknames and how my uncle calls me one thing and my cousin another and my parents another, one student in the back of the room said, "Hey, it's Gugu." Another added, "No, it's Goober." One kid said, "Potato." "He's the kid with the super silly name. Can't he take anything seriously?" said another. "Captain Disaster," said another. Everyone laughed. I laughed too, but I didn't like the nicknames they called me as much as I liked the nicknames my family called me. The teacher finally quieted down the class. She looked at me sternly. "Please walk down to the office, talk to the principal, and come back here with a normal name." On the long walk down the hall, I realized my name now was Señor Antonio Bernardo Guber Magu Sacre Potato Papito Futinguito Coquito El Capitán de Disaster y los Mosquitos, kid with the super silly name, can't I take anything seriously, El Gu. I walked into the office. The really big man who helped me earlier sat in a cozy chair and pointed to a chair next to him for me to sit. "I understand there's been a ruckus in Mrs. Green's room." I told him all that happened, and he started laughing. "You, my friend," he said, "have a powerful, funny, amazing name, one that you should be proud of. You go back to the classroom and tell them that is your name, and add this one from me." He leaned over the desk and he whispered it into my ear. I smiled. I walked back to my kindergarten classroom and charged through the door. "My name is Señor Antonio Bernardo Guber Magu Sacre Potato Papito Futinguito Coquito El Capitán de Disaster y los Mosquitos, kid with the super silly name, can I take anything seriously, El Gu." And the principal said so, and he said I could add the kid who is not afraid to say who he is. And he also said, "Do you know what that makes you?" "What?" asked the children, laughing from their seats. I crossed my arms in front of me, stood taller, and said, "Cool. But if you want, you can just call me Cool." "Cool?" La Señora Verde smiled and said, "Cool." I really liked school. I hope you liked that story. I love that story. And there's lots of other stories in that book. My Name is Cool by my friend Antonio Sacre. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope to see you guys soon. Bye-bye.